I can hear my mom in the back like, "Don't forget your mother.
Bye.
She raised you. She cleaned your poops."
No, never that
You know,
noble.
that's what she was saying.
Yeah, that is what she would say. You're right. Hey.
Yeah, I think any strong relationship, it has to be built on trust, communication, and honesty. Those are like the real three things, and they all go together.
Oh, that.
Patterns.
Wait, pause. That was a very good kind of summary of a good relationship. That was really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even plan it. It just popped in my
Yes, per.
head. Purr. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Time to Talk About podcast. Today, Eden and I are going to be discussing toxic relationships. Um, Toxic relationships are something that have always existed, obviously, but it kind of feels like that now more than ever. There are so many toxic relationships, both with younger people and older people. And I guess with or I don't know if it's a rise issues, but sort of with the greater awareness that we have now regarding mental health issues, we're talking more about these dangerous types of relationships. So today we want to take some time to dig into what toxic relationships are, what their limits are, if there are any limits, and what are some signs of a toxic relationship, so that if you are in one, or if a friend or family member is in one that you may know, you can actually identify that and take steps to remedy it. All right, so let's go ahead and define what toxic relationships are first and foremost. And Eden, you have the definition for us, right? We looked it up.
Yeah, I do. Um, According to verywellmind.com, a toxic relationship is one that makes you feel unsupported, misunderstood, demeaned, or attacked.
Yes, and we'll put all these links in the bio, like every link that we take information from. But I think it's important to point out, right, that in these definitions, they don't ever bring up romantic relationships, right? They're not limiting it to romantic relationships, which I think is a common misconception, right?
Yeah, I
Like
would say,
when we think of toxic relationships, especially, and when we see them in movies and TV, it's usually in the context of love.
sorry, I think there's a little bit of a lag there, but yeah, I would say that most of the toxic relationships that I've been in, or I guess really all of them, have been friendships for the
Mm.
most part, right? Like you said, it is a huge misconception that toxic relationships are always romantic relationships because I think that especially in close friendships,
Mm.
conversations are had, connections are made, and there's always the potential for it to go awry, which is kind of sad if you think about it. Um,
Yeah, it is.
but I think that as I've gotten older, um, I've definitely learned that you have no obligation to stay inside of a friendship if
Yes.
if you don't feel like you're being supported, if you feel like you're being attacked, and all those other verbs that were in that definition. Um,
Yes.
if
That's a
you
great point.
if you relate how you're feeling to a friend and they don't want to take it, I think that is a sign to drop them. Like, you
Mm.
know, there's no reason to continue being there. I think another thing that you said earlier about um, the existence of toxic relationships, like in any age vicinity, I think that's a very good point because nowadays I feel like there's more awareness being brought to things like that. Um, and so maybe it's not necessarily that there are more toxic relationships today than 50, 75, 100 years ago. Maybe it's more so the fact that back then they were not talked about. There were no resources to help people that are in toxic relationships. But now we're in a system and in an environment where there are more resources, there are more outlets to talk about things like that, and that's a good thing. It's always a good thing to bring awareness.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you just made me think of something I listened to the other day, like a week or so ago. I was watching a Joshua Bassett interview actually, and for people who don't know, he's an actor, musical, the new one. Um, and he was in the, if you remember, beginning of last year, there was that song "Driver's License" by Olivia Rodrigo. There was that whole um proposed love triangle situation. He was in that. But what he was saying that I thought was really interesting was that when he was growing up, especially throughout high school, he didn't have a whole lot of friends. And the friends he did have were actually not that good of friends. You know what I mean? They were actually not very good to him overall. But he felt like because he had trouble making friends and, was different, I guess, maybe didn't fit in conventionally with other people in high school, hold on to those friends.
Yeah,
He thought like if I cut them off, then I'm going to be lonely. I'm not going to have any friends. And he was saying that looking back, he wishes that he had just cut them off. And so he was like, never say that like these are the only friends I have, so we have to stick together. Like it's better to be alone, usually for a little while, than to have toxic friends. And I was like, at the time I was like, wow, that's a really good point. And he talked about how like he had a big falling out with a lot of his friends, basically because something people accused him of doing something and it wasn't true. And he told all his friends it wasn't true, but nobody believed him. So they had a really huge falling out. And right after that happened, he got the call from Disney that he was casting High School Musical. So he moved and left, and he never had to really, interact with those people again. So he was saying that like it sort of how life has taken him on a journey and how things have worked out. But yeah, all of that is to say, I love that you brought that point up, Eden. That sometimes being lonely, if you will, is better than those toxic friends. We shouldn't feel like we have to hold on to them. And I think it even goes with family too, right?
oh yeah,
Sometimes,
yeah, for sure.
sometimes extended family can be a little wild, even maybe your main family. And it's harder because that is your family. And obviously, I would want to work harder to maintain a familiar relationship than a friendship, probably. Like, I probably wouldn't let that go as quickly. But there's some times where there's not much you can do. So, what really is the point of holding on? You're not helping yourself or them for that matter.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, in terms of like the friendship, like that first kind of like thought process about, oh, like I don't have that many friends, so I need to hold on to these people even if they're toxic. I feel like that's a very common mindset
Mm-hmm.
across the spectrum of relationships, like regardless of it's a friendship, familiar relationship, romantic relationship. That's a very common thought process, and I feel like it's valid. Like the concern is very valid, and
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's also normal to have that thought process at some point if you're going through a situation like that. I know I definitely have, like in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but my thing is, like you were saying, you have to learn how to be okay with being alone from time to time,
Yes.
because I feel like, the detrimental effects that a person or a group of people can have on you because of their toxicity may be worse than you being sad because you're alone, you know?
That's so true.
Now I feel like, for me, you know the type of person that I am, right? If a certain group of
Yep.
people is getting on my nerves, like I'm not gonna mess around. Like I'm just gonna cut them off. I'm gonna find a new group of people, right? Because I like to surround myself with people. But if need be, I think I'm actually learning how to be alone, if need be. And I feel like that should be looked at. Sorry, come on English. Looked at as a marker of growth. In terms
Yeah.
of familial relationships, I think that you made a very good point. Even in your immediate family, I feel like especially in our culture, but I feel like it's something that may be somewhat generalizable to the non-individualistic world. Um, them,
Generalizable. Is that a word?
yeah, that's very much. Don't do that. That's very much a word. Come on, Google. Wait, I'm
I
looking it
think
up
it's
right now.
generalized.
No, generalizable. Generalizable adjective. This is from Oxford Languages. Don't eat me. It
Okay.
says able to be made more widely or generally applicable. Come on,
Okay.
Google. Okay, so back to what I was saying before I was rudely interrupted by the word police.
I'm just
Um,
saying.
okay. Anyways, familiar relationships across the world in non-individualistic cultures are marked by blood. So if you're related to someone by blood, or I guess even adoptive, like in that type of instance, but especially blood, if you are related to someone by blood, right, you have to respect them, you have to stay in contact with them, A, B, C, and D.
Right.
And it's like under normal circumstances, I understand that because you do kind of have that support system, but this is not a perfect world, right? If someone is hurting you, if someone is harming your mental health, it doesn't matter if that person is your mom, your brother, your cousin. It doesn't matter. Like in my opinion, it's completely okay to cut them off and take a break from them,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, you can't have good times with your family if you're depressed. You know what I mean? I guess you can from time to time. Sorry, that was a generalization, but it's gonna waste your energy at a certain point. You'll be living, but you'll be surviving. You won't be living.
Hmm. Yeah. And I just want to say, like, this is not to say that anytime you have a problem, disagreement, argument with your family, you just immediately cut them off. Like, obviously, or friend for that matter. Obviously, you nothing's going to be smooth sailing in terms of any relationship. And sometimes we need to go through those struggles and hardships in our relationships to grow stronger. So it's not like you should give up at the first sign of an issue. But this is a relationship, like we said, one that makes you feel unsupported, misunderstood, demeaned, or attacked. And we have a quote too from a psychologist, Dr. Lillian Glass from Time Magazine, that I think is really because she says while every relationship goes through ups and downs, a toxic relationship is consistently and draining for the people in it, to the point that the negative moments outweigh and outnumber the positive ones. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really important distinction. Every relationship is going to have issues, even family relationships. It doesn't mean that if you and your father are arguing about something or beefing, you should immediately cut them off. But some people have been in situations, even in their families, where it's continuously draining and unpleasant for all of them. And it's just they can't even enjoy moments together as a family or with that person because all of overtakes it. I want to make that clear in this
Right.
discussion.
Right. I think that arguments are a very um they're a very normal thing. Everyone has
Yeah.
arguments, and they're not necessarily a bad thing in and of themselves, right? But if
Yeah.
you're arguing until the relationship is falling off the bone, it's like maybe you should, like, no, I'm serious, like maybe you should, like, I was gonna say get that checked out, but you should probably cut that person off or take a break from them. I'm gonna be saying that a lot in this episode because it's like that's not the only solution, but it's one of the most effective.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
um,
falling off the bone sounds very serious. So that's definitely
oh,
past the point of salvage, being salvaged.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I salvaging is something in and of itself, right? Because I feel like there is a degree to which a relationship is salvageable within reason,
Of
right?
course. Especially when we're talking about romantic relationships. Like
Yeah.
sometimes and when you're in the earlier stages, especially, sometimes people need to realize, okay, this is not going where it's supposed to go.
Right. Right.
Sometimes people stay in it for longer than they need to.
Mm. But yeah, even that, like that last part that you said, is even a little. I don't know. That's also really loaded about the duration of time, because I feel like some people may leave a toxic like relationship and they're not ready to. If that makes sense. Like it's okay. It's never a bad thing to leave a toxic relationship, but I feel like for certain people, if they leave, you know, at a certain point of time,
Mhm.
they're gonna keep coming back to that person
No,
because
that makes sense.
like yeah, they never got that type of closure. You
But
know?
to me, that means they haven't really truly come to terms with the fact that it's toxic. They're just like, well,
Yeah.
it's not great.
Yeah, exactly. Like I feel like you have to actually have that realization. And too often, actually, I think that this is something that really a lot of people do. When we don't want to face something or when something is very difficult to face, you try and convince yourself that it's the opposite.
Hmm.
So I know that I've definitely tried to convince myself that, oh, I'm overreacting or, oh, this situation is not toxic at A, B, C, and D, but it might have very well been. Actually, it very well was. So salvageability is definitely a certain, I don't know, that's definitely very loaded in and of itself.
Yes. Yeah. Hmm.
I don't know.
No, I think it's
Um,
very true. Like you have to come to terms with it. You have to be ready. And, I think I read somewhere too in some discussion about or article or something about toxic relationships that sometimes you are not ready. Like I think that is a sentiment people have shared. Like you have to be in the mental space to be able to do it alone and leave and spend time on you. So that's very true, I think.
right. Um, I think like back to family for a for a minute. Sorry, back to family. I'm thinking about the relationship between a parent and their child.
Hmm. That can also
Um,
be toxic.
and yeah, and I feel like there, especially within that relationship, there is so much potential for toxicity, especially because of the way that that relationship is often viewed, right?
Hmm.
Like, obviously, if you are a parent and you don't have some level of control over your kids, I'm gonna be confused. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of parents can also be very, very, very authoritarian, and then they get mad when their child wants to move out, and
It's true.
it's like, okay, well, you were toxic, like that's kind of your fault. You never allowed that child to really express themselves. You teach that child to associate, them expressing themselves or them not feeling A1 or whatever with your anger and your toxicity. So why would they want to surround yourself? Sorry, why would you want to, why, come on, English, why would that child want to surround themselves with that parent after it surpasses a certain point, you know?
Yeah. I think the main key for parents, and I'm not a parent, obviously,
Neither am
so
I.
it's not like I know what I'm talking about. But I'm saying, as a young person, as a son, I think one of the main things parents can do to build that relationship positively with their child and help it not be toxic is making sure that your child can talk to you about anything. And that doesn't just mean being available. It means making sure they feel like they can talk to them about anything. And I guess that goes with communication, which we're going to talk about when we talk about the different signs. But I think a lot of kids feel sometimes that like there's certain things they can't talk to their parents about because they're going to get mad. But it's not just that they're going to get mad, because obviously if you do something wrong or something like that, your parents not going to be happy about it. But it's not just them being disappointed about it. It's them. Sometimes parents get so angry, you can feel like they would never forgive you. You know what I mean? Or they're
Yeah.
so mad at you that they hate you. It sounds a little crazy, but sometimes as kids you can think of it that way. And if you feel like there's things you can do or say to your parents that will make them so angry to the point where they want to disown you, you're not going to tell them certain things. And to be honest, even that is exaggerating. Like it doesn't even have to be like you're afraid to tell them this because they'll disown you. It could just be you're afraid of them just getting mad and yelling, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
unnecessarily, or so much, and it doesn't mean that like parents should just be happy with their kids all the time and let everything fly. But I really think that's a really important key. Like your child has to be able to feel like they're comfortable enough to talk with you about anything, including when they mess up, including when they make mistakes. And I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of times that's where that toxicity comes in. They don't want to tell you things, and so then there are secrets and stuff, and it builds up, and then the secret gets, it comes out, and now everybody's really mad.
Yeah. 2 points. The first one, um, I think that some parents, and really this isn't really just parents, this is really everyone, not everyone, but I know for myself, um, quite a few people are pretty volatile, and
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I am too. Um, and I feel like as a parent, you have to learn how to control that side of yourself
Control
because,
is true. Your
yes,
temper.
exactly. Because if you bring that attitude to your child, that breeds that type of fear that you were talking about, you know?
Yes.
I think there's a certain point at which a parent needs to like kind of chill out just a little bit. If your child can't come and talk to you about anything, like I don't know, like literally anything, then that's kind of a problem. You know, I think a lot of parents are so focused on the aspect of like providing for for their children materially that they are not emotionally available for their children, which like we're saying is extremely extremely toxic. This whole, oh, you have clothes on your back, you have a house, electricity, that type of trope is tired. It's very tired because yes, like we have
Yeah.
that stuff,
Yep.
and it's like we're very very grateful for that, but at the same time, we're just surviving. We're not living. You know what I mean? The mental health is
Yes.
not there. It's not there when there's not a healthy relationship. At least in that, when a child has to live in that environment, the mental health is not there. Positive mental health is not there. Because they have to be surrounded by someone that is not emotionally available. And my second point is that that's why I think that not everyone is meant to be a parent. You know what I mean? Because some people are not in
That
that
is the truth.
emotional headspace. Yeah, not everyone's in the emotional headspace to learn to deal with a child in a palatable manner. You know.
Hmm. Some people are not meant to be parents until later in life. Like they need to grow and mature a little more. And some people are not meant to be parents, period.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
obviously, I feel like we kind of live in a world where it's expected that you're going to reproduce. So I think there's a lot of pressure on people in general to have kids. And
Mm-hmm.
and that's part of why we have that problem.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. No, I feel like that's an entirely different topic for a different episode. But the pressure to
Yes.
have kids in certain cultures, you know what? No, maybe close to all cultures is very
Yeah.
that trope is actually tired. Like that is very wow. If someone says they don't want to have kids, they do not want to have kids. That's another toxic thing that certain individuals do within families, right? Especially, I think it's especially like for like daughters, not as much
Hmm.
like for guys. But if you say, "Oh, I don't want to have a child," all the aunties get mad, and it's like, first of all, you're not making the baby. You know what I mean? So your opinion doesn't really matter on things like that. That's the first thing. The second thing is if someone does not want to have a child, they know themselves better than you know them. You know what I mean? So I think it's very valid for someone to say that. And it's also very
All
valid
facts.
for someone to want a child if they know they can handle having a child emotionally, you know?
Mm.
Um, Shoot, I was gonna say something else, but I'm not remembering. Uh, yeah, I guess that's it.
Yeah, let's talk about the signs of a toxic relationship, and
Okay.
maybe we'll come back to you.
Oh wait, no,
Um,
it just came back to me. Sorry.
okay.
Um, this is just like kind of like a disclaimer. I do not hate my parents. I love my parents. They're good people. I'm just pointing out things that I have seen in maybe other people's relationships with their parents or some small things in my relationship with my parents. No, but I think you're saying the same thing here. Like our parents
Yeah.
are good people, really good people. Um, but
Yeah, we're not
everybody
saying
does
any of
toxic
this
things.
because they do that to us, just to be clear, per se. But it's just as you grow and as you learn, you sort of notice things and you realize things.
Hmm. Okay, go ahead.
Alrighty. So signs of a toxic relationship, right? Um, we have a little list here. We've compiled it from an article we found. We'll put the link in the bio for that as well. But the first one that they have is the lack of support. So it says healthy relationships are based on a mutual desire to see the other succeed in all areas of life. But when things turn toxic, every achievement becomes a competition.
Mm.
Hmm.
I mean, personally, I think I see that the most in friendships. Like,
Yes.
um, so many people are mad that you're thriving,
Mm-hmm.
and I will never understand that. I will never understand how someone can be mad because someone else is winning. You know, um, I
Jealousy.
feel like yeah, literally, but it's like I don't know, I don't know. It's like I feel like good friends are gonna support you whether you're maybe not doing so well or are doing very well, you know? But, people
Yeah.
move so weird. Like, people switch up so fast. So, yeah.
It's really true. Sometimes, yeah, it is jealousy and envy. A lot of times, that's really what it is. Like sometimes you wish you were, but it would be great if, as a society, we could get to the point where, despite where we are, how we compete, how we stack up with another person, we can just be happy for their success. It's so sad. You see it on the internet a lot too, that when somebody's doing well, down. I think that's especially kind of like it goes really hand in hand with cancel culture now because a lot of times when
People will go all the way back. Like, they'll go 8 years back to find someone that did something that someone
right,
did badly. And it just
that's
doesn't make
exactly
sense
what
to
I was
me.
going to say. That's exactly what I was going to say. Like a celebrity or somebody will be doing something and they'll be succeeding it and all of a sudden it's like something comes up to cancel them. Now, obviously, sometimes they make mistakes, you know? It's not like it's never warranted, but a lot of times it's like, yeah, people look for receipts. They go back in the timeline, in the Twitter feed to find something problematic from 9 years ago when they are probably not that same person that they were 9 years ago, you know? And I think it really does stem from you kind of want to push somebody down a peg a little bit because they have what you don't have. It's a weird thing. I don't know that, but it's a very natural human thing. But it's weird that we're so obsessed with that.
I mean, look, I'm not the same person I was 8 years ago. 8 years ago, I was not it. And I'm not saying I'm it now, but I'm
Right.
not saying that I'm not it anymore. You know what I mean? So I
Mm-hmm.
just feel like it's not fair to do something like that, like in terms of cancel culture. But
Yeah,
like you said, like I feel like sometimes it is warranted. I just feel like
for sure.
the way that it's carried out is definitely flawed.
Yes. Now, in a toxic relationship, the lack of support is huge. That's when it kind of gets to the point where when you're spending time together, it's always about them, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're doing, how they're doing at work, how they're doing at school, type thing, right? And when it's your turn to feel supported or encouraged, that same support is not reciprocated. And that's a
Oh,
really
wait,
draining
wait,
thing.
put a pin right there. Sorry, put a pin right there. Reciprocated. Reciprocated is a very, very good word because, oh my goodness. Okay, this is something that okay, it's really important. I'm sorry. A relationship, any type of relationship has to be two-sided, at least between two people. It has to be two-sided,
Yes,
right?
it's a two-way
If the
street.
energy, if the energy is not being reciprocated, leave, leave. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? If you are not reciprocating the energy, do better. You know what I mean? Like, um, I feel like there are things that parties of a certain relationship are supposed to get out of that relationship. And if all the parties of that relationship are not getting that thing out of it because whatever in question is not being reciprocated, then it's not a good relationship. Period. And a sentence. No petitions, no appeals, no. Period. And a
Yeah,
sentence. You
it's
know?
true.
Yeah, reciprocated is that's a very loaded word and idea. And I think it holds so much importance because if the energy is not being reciprocated, you are just wasting your time. I'm sorry to break it to you. You are just wasting your time. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's like it makes me think of this song that Olivia Rodrigo has. I can't
Hey,
speak.
I feel like support in and of itself is also really important. I know that some people maybe come across in a way that's like maybe stoic, oh, this is not affecting me, this is not affecting me, da, 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 da. But that doesn't mean that they don't still need support. And I feel like
Yeah,
if the relationship actually means something to you, you should go out of your way to make sure that person feels supported, whether they show it or not. Acting some type of way towards your kid, I think you're smart. Like you know what I mean. Like that's
yeah,
toxic communication. And I think that all of us have been toxic communicators at some point because it's not like communication is not necessarily an easy thing to master. It's not really
yes,
easy to put your emotions out there like that, you know. Um, in my opinion, another type of toxic communication is a lack of communication.
I
You
was gonna
know,
say that. Yes.
I think that like I there's a situation like a while ago in which like I know I was a toxic communicator. Like looking back at that situation because I
Mhm.
didn't communicate with this person what I was thinking, and now given I guess like there are other forces in that situation that made me uncomfortable saying whatever I want to
Yeah,
say, but at the same time I still realized that like I was wrong. Looking back in the moment I was annoyed about the whole thing, but looking back I was like, oh shoot, that was actually really toxic of me to just kind of leave everything on the table like that and not provide closure to the situation like I know I should have you know
absolutely. For me personally, the worst type of toxic communication is no communication. And maybe that's because I'm not a type A person. I'm more of an introvert. And so sometimes saying what needs to be said does not come easy for me. And a lot of times I don't want to do it. But and it's common in all types of relationships. Sometimes you feel a certain way about something that the other person in the relationship is doing, saying, whatever it may be, and you don't say it. You just kind of hold it inside, and it grows and grows and builds up, right? And then what usually ends up happening is some situation with them tips you over the edge, and then you just
yeah
let it all out. Or sometimes another person outside of that relationship does something to you that's really small that you don't like, but because you've been holding this other thing, it just comes out, and then you take it out on them, and they don't know why you're mad at them because it really has nothing to do with them, right?
yeah
So that's the main problem with toxic communication, when you just keep holding it in, or even if you're communicating, you're not saying what needs to be said, you're kind of dancing around the bush type thing.
right, yeah.
That's
um
really common and really problematic.
I also feel like, at least up until this point, all of the types of toxic communication that we've talked about have been, I guess, like very forward types, but there's also passive types, at least in my opinion, as
Yes.
well. If you are not creating we talked about this earlier, but in terms of parenthood, but this is really goes for any relationship, in my opinion, right? If you are not creating a type of environment that is conducive to someone wanting to communicate with you, you are toxic. Period. End of sentence. Yeah, some people are not approachable, and it's not like we're not saying, oh, you should change your entire personality to all of a sudden become approachable and da da da. No, that's not what we're saying. But at the same time, if someone feels like they're not being heard, there's something wrong. You know, there's
Yes.
something wrong.
Envy or jealousy. That's the next one. Well, obviously, we've touched on those a little bit already. This article says it's perfectly fine to experience a little envy from time to time, which I find interesting. It is a natural human emotion, so I
Okay,
understand that part.
sure. Yeah, yeah,
It says it can become an issue if your envy keeps you from thinking positively about your partner's successes. Same with jealousy. Sometimes being jealous leads to suspicion, and that's when the relationship really starts to unravel. And of course, that part is talking mainly about romantic relationships. We see that a lot in
Yeah.
romantic relationships, right?
Yeah. Um, I don't know. Envy and jealousy, I guess I said this earlier, but I'll say it again. I feel like to a certain degree, like, yeah, it's kind of normal, but to an excessive degree or to a degree that is more than what is within reason, it doesn't make sense to me because how are you mad that someone else is winning? Or
Yeah.
I guess more so in the context of this type of discussion, more specifically, um, I think that oftentimes envy or jealousy comes without a lack of context, you know,
Hmm.
and I don't know, maybe in a more general sense, oh, you see someone has something that you don't, but maybe you also have something that they don't, and then
Yeah,
in a more complex type of context, things are not always as they appear. They
for
aren't. And I
sure.
know a lot of people will fight me for that, but too bad.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that it's normal for envy or jealousy to occur, for those feelings to pop up. But my thing is, do you let them, or do you quickly shut it down? Right?
I Okay, but pause. I feel like
That leads us into controlling behaviors. Obviously, we've seen kind of the I guess archetypes of this, especially in media. That partner or friend that wants to know where you are at every minute. They keep texting them like, "Where are you? Where are you?" Then they're calling them, when it's very clear that in that relationship there's a lack of trust, there might be some jealousy, or they just generally are a control freak, right?
yeah, I don't know.
Like we see that a lot. But controlling behaviors, it's kind of an umbrella thing, right? It can be a whole host of things. It doesn't just have to be those, of course.
Right.
And sometimes that can lead to abuse too. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. You know
all
what?
types of abuse.
I think that in terms of controlling behaviors, it's something that I don't know. It can be shown through a lot of like different ways, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Like there are some things that some people might do that might not necessarily be like they might not be. Oh, this is like I don't know. I don't know if I'm explaining this well, but it might not be something that you would look at and be like, oh, they're controlling me, but in reality they are. Like I
Yeah.
said, things are not always what they seem, and that goes both ways. That very much goes both ways.
Yeah.
Um,
Like some people, if I can give an example, some
yeah,
people where the other partner would be like, "Oh, don't wear that dress," or "I want you to wear makeup for this gathering," and stuff like that. That can be seen as controlling too. Now, obviously, it kind of depends on the relationship because some relationships, that level of honesty and clarity is good. Some
yeah,
relationships, they expect each other to tell each other those things. Sometimes it can be negative, right?
yeah,
Like for me,
yeah.
if your partner is always saying you need to wear makeup like all the time, that's kind of alarming.
Yeah, that's a huge red flag in my
Right?
opinion. Yeah. Oh, um, I also feel like, oh shoot, where my brain is empty. Where was I going with this? Okay, I remember now. Controlling behaviors are not like I feel like they can be something that I don't know. It exists if someone exploits the boundaries of their relationship, if that makes sense. Like if someone trusts you to a certain extent that, they take your word as close to 100%, if they
Hmm.
take it as, I don't want to say God, but, basically there, and you're using that, like that, the other person in the relationship, sorry, is using that in an exploitative manner, that's also very controlling, right? If let's say someone gets $100,000, right? And they ask this very, very trusted
Yeah.
friend, oh, what should I do with this $100,000? Should I, you know, pay off this or should I, invest it? And, the other person in the relationship chooses, I guess, the option that is in their best interest instead of in their friends because they know that
Mhm.
their friend will take it. That's sneaky and that is a little controlling. You know what I'm saying? I guess that's what I meant by there's certain things
Absolutely.
that aren't, yeah, like they're not it's not necessarily glaring in your face. Oh, this is controlling. But if you look at it, it's like, okay, it is. It's manipulative, Manipulate and control mean like
Yeah.
basically the same thing. So, yeah.
So basically synonyms. Yeah. That's very that's a very sinister level of control for real.
Yeah, but I think I've,
Um,
I've definitely seen it before.
Resentment is the next one. So resentment is holding on to grudges and sort of letting them eat away at you, right?
Yeah.
Over time, frustration or resentment can build up and make a smaller issue much bigger.
Right, right.
That's a
Um
big one.
oh shoot. The lag is there again, but it's fine. Um yeah, that is a big one. For me, I think that with resentment, if that's a, I don't know, if that's in the situation, is wraps at that point.
Yeah.
Because resentment, in my mind, is not that different from actually disliking someone. If you dislike someone, why are you in a type of relationship with them? Unless that's a hate relationship, you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
um, but the frustration part of this is also a very important thing to talk about, right?
Yeah.
Um, I think frustration builds on itself. The more you
Mm.
think about it, the more you think about it, but not just that. The more people add to it, also it can also really harm you and the
Yes.
relationship. Frustration is something that is is strange. It's a little strange because how do you navigate that? Especially if you're in a situation where it doesn't, like, you're not comfortable with processing that with someone else. Um, when it comes out, I think we talked about this earlier, but when it comes out and you know you're mad, you know other people are going to get mad because you're mad, but then they weren't there to help you talk through the situation beforehand. Or
Yeah.
maybe they
Yeah.
were and you're just a bad communicator. So frustration is a difficult, it's a they come on English, it's a difficult thing to process. It's a
Hmm.
difficult thing to kind of think about. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Resentment goes hand in hand with toxic communication. I think that's kind of the big idea we're saying here because a lot of times people hold grudges and have resentment. Like you said, not because they hate or dislike the person, but because maybe they don't feel comfortable speaking up about something.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that issue is a very touchy subject with that person that you're in the relationship with. So they don't feel like bringing it up because they don't want to make things worse. And so you hold a grudge because you hate that that happened, but you're not able to discussions that need to be had. Trust that your partner is going to be able to listen to your concerns and actually, sit down with you and talk through it and think through it and be like, okay, how can we resolve this? Your relationship is probably toxic, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so for sure. Um,
Yeah. So
yeah.
they all work together, I think. Alrighty, next thing on the list is dishonesty, which is given in many relationships. And obviously, we all tell lies sometimes, right? But
Yeah.
it can also be a real problem.
Yeah, dishonesty in and of itself is definitely a problem. Like, I don't know. I feel like if you were lying without reason, that is problematic. I don't think that dishonesty is a good thing, period. But at the
Right,
same time, right, if there is dishonesty in the relationship, my question is why,
right.
right? Because some people are just pathological liars, and it's like there's no reason, they just like doing it, or maybe
They
they don't
lie
even
for the
like
sake of
doing
lying.
it. Yeah, they just but at the same time, if someone does not, once again, if someone does not create an environment that you can share everything with them in, or you're
Hmm.
comfortable telling them the truth on all occasions, then that is a red flag. You know, dishonesty, if it's there, right? If it's there to a certain extent in one capacity, that capacity being, really no reason at all, it's just filled with lies, then that is toxic. But also, if dishonesty is there because people are afraid to tell the truth, that is also a problem. It goes both
Yes.
ways. It goes both
Yeah.
ways.
I agree. You really have to look at the root cause. Because if, for example, if you're always lying about where you are or who you're going to meet up with, it could be because maybe you don't really want to spend much time with that person, you realized, because the relationship is toxic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it could be because you don't want them to actually know the truth about where you are, what you're doing, because they'll react badly, right? Or their feelings will be hurt. But
Yeah.
all of those situations, depending, could be toxic. If you want to avoid spending time with the person, that's already toxic, right? Now, if you're worried about how they react to the truth, it could be toxic. It could not be. Like if you're cheating on somebody, obviously you're going to worry about their reaction when they find out. That in of itself is not saying it's toxic per se. Well, I mean, you could argue that if you're cheating, it's already toxic, but but that's also not necessarily the case. Some people just cheat, right? And they don't even mean to. But if you're away somewhere and you're cheating, you don't want them to find out. Um, it could be that you just had a weak moment, right? And you're
Mm-hmm.
making a mistake, and the relationship itself is not toxic. You just had a as Miss Ali would say, my teacher, you would say you had a lapse in judgment. But it could also be that your relationship is not giving you what you need, or there's something not there between the two of you, and so you feel that you have to go out and find it, right? It could be that they're not a good listener too, that you couldn't even talk about any issues, so you end up confiding in someone else, and that leads to cheating. So it's like it could be toxic, it could not be. But like you said, you really do have to look at what is the root cause and go from there. And if you're the one lying, you know what the root cause is, right?
Right, right. A lot of introspection needs to be done.
For sure. That's a tough one, I think, sometimes. Sometimes it's really hard to tell the truth. Yeah, I think any strong relationship, it has to be built on trust, communication, and honesty. Those are like the real three things, and they all go together.
Oh, well, that
Patterns.
wait, pause. That was a very good kind of summary of a good relationship. That was really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even plan it. It just popped in my
Yes, per.
head. Huh. Okay, patterns of disrespect. So this is talking about always being late,
Oop.
maybe forgetting events. Not like I actually forgot, right? But like casually, because maybe you weren't taking it that seriously to begin with. You show disrespect for your time should be red flags. I think that's a good point that I would
It is
not
a
have
good
thought
point.
of if somebody said what to you is a toxic relationship. Wouldn't have been the first thing that popped in my mind. I don't know. What about you? What do you think about
Um,
that one?
well, I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. I am pretty bad with time, so I'm working on that. Um, but yeah, I think not being respectful with someone's time is definitely. Yeah, I can see how that could be a sign.
Yeah. A lot of times
No,
it's
it is a
just you're
sign.
late.
Like, yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's not saying every time you're late you are, right? But
yeah,
like let's say like I don't know, you're really busy at work maybe, and your partner has been wanting to have a like a date night with you, right? To go out and eat, right?
yeah, yeah.
For many weeks. And like every week they make their and then you always have to cancel because this comes up or that comes up. And then you finally do it and you're really late. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like
right, yeah,
once or twice it's an innocent mistake or it's you got caught up in a situation and life happens. But if that keeps happening, right, you keep trying to do it and then you're always late, or you can be like, we'll do it later, we'll push it off. That's going to make the person feel like you don't really care about the relationship, right? And that could be toxic already, or that could lead to toxicity if it's not already fully toxic. And then if you don't really communicate about it, sometimes people kind of brush those things off, right? And they're like, okay, whatever, right? And they're hurt, right? The resentment is there, but the communication is not happening. It's toxic. So it's like everything's building on top of each other. So I can see how patterns of disrespect, they can sort of boil over. you know?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, I can see that. Um, but in terms of casually forgetting events, that's like, I don't know, that's crazy. Like, imagine like forgetting, just casually forgetting your best friend's wedding, you know? I don't know.
Yeah. That's a that's a big deal.
That's, yeah, that's a big deal. Um, yeah, but then also like, I think disrespect goes also outside of like time as well. Um, like we said earlier, like if someone is telling you something and you're not listening to them, especially with
Exactly.
something that is very important or it's something that they're telling you, oh, you can do this better, and you're not listening to them, then that is very disrespectful because you're not respecting their boundaries.
Yes.
Boundaries, that's another thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look, I have the right to say, everyone has the right to say no at any point of time, and everyone has the right to say yes at any point of time as well. Period. End of sentence. Whenever you set boundaries for yourself, some people are going to look at you sideways. If they look at you sideways, toxic. Period. End of sentence. Um, Setting boundaries is never a bad thing.
Absolutely.
Oh, wait, pause. Okay, I don't want to say never because I'm sure someone will come up and be like, well, in this situation, da 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 da. But I
Well,
think you
maybe
get what
you
I'm
can
saying
you can
here.
take it too far,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
in general, I would
But
say
in
it's good.
general,
Yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
Boondaries.
oh, not that, babes.
Set your
Um,
boondaries, please, for your fiance.
oh, Lord. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like this is the way that I see it, right? If someone asks you, oh, are you coming to such and such event? And you say yes, no one is going to ask you why. But if they ask you, are you coming to such and such event? And you say no, people are going to be like, why? Why? Listen, there
Yeah.
doesn't have to be a why. There does not have to be a why. If you say no, that is your boundary that you set for yourself. And that is
Absolutely.
not a bad thing. Period. End of
Hmm.
sentence.
Yeah. And speaking of like going to events, I was thinking about um that's a great example too. Going back to the casually forgetting events, I was trying to think what would that look like, a real situation, and it could be like you promise you would go somewhere with a friend or significant other, right? And
Yeah.
then the day comes and it's time to go, and you're like, actually, I have this thing to do, or actually, I made this commitment, right? And of course, that's also something that can happen like one time here, one time there. But
Right. Exactly.
it's
Exactly.
common. There's been situations where like people keep making plans with somebody and then they go make another plan and it's like, oh, I forgot. Because if something like that keeps happening, then it's like, do you really care about this person, their time, their relationship? You know what I mean? And of course, some people just struggle with time management and making plans in general. So I think too, it's like before you jump and be like, oh, it's toxic, right? If you're able to talk about it and they're able to understand your feelings and what's going on and then they improve, they make some improvement, then that's great. That was not toxic. That was just they struggle with time management, and they're going to work on it. But it's when maybe you can't talk about it because the communication is not there, or you talk about it, but it's like they're not really making any strides or any attempts to improve their behavior, right?
Right. Right. Relationships are supposed to be dynamic, in my opinion. Like, they should not be static.
Yes.
Well, I feel like there's exceptions to that rule, but I think in any type of relationship, you should be trying to grow together, you know?
Yeah.
And if that's not what's happening, it's like, okay, you know? So it's a
Yeah.
little, I don't know, a little confusing to me. So it makes sense as to why you're saying, there should be that type of like growth, trying to get out of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Another sign of toxic relationship, constant stress, which sounds obvious when you say it, right? Relationships are not easy. They are difficult. There's going to be stress. But if you're kind of always in that, and I think, how you feel as a person, if you're always in your stress state of mind, if you're always on edge, even when there's not really many other things in your life going on that should be stressing you out, something's not right. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. 110%, Um, for me, my motto this year is I choose peace
For real.
because Stress is actually a very bad thing. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's kind of a cliche thing to say, but I don't think that we think about it that often.
We don't.
My thing about toxic relationships is that at the end of the day, sometimes you have to put yourself first, you
Yes.
know? So if you are always stressed and it's because of a certain relationship, you are not putting yourself first, you know?
Absolutely.
Especially if there are no, like you're saying, if there are no other stressors except for that relationship, then that relationship it is what is keeping you from living, you know?
Yes.
So I choose peace, and you should too.
100%. And I feel like we don't appreciate sometimes the connection between, and I'm not using appreciate in the positive tense, right? I'm using the word in a negative tense here. We don't appreciate the connection between stress and physical and mental health sometimes. Like stress can make you obviously mentally unwell, but it can even affect your body physically sometimes. We
Yeah,
don't
very
realize
true.
the connection sometimes, but our bodies are really there. It's a very connected piece of machinery, if you will. So if one aspect, like your mental health, is not well, that's going to take a toll on your physical health and vice versa, right?
Right, right.
So we really have to identify our, and this is becoming the mental health slash stress episode because it's really true for any type of mental health or stress issue, not just in relationships, but we really need to identify our sources of stress and then
Eliminate
take
them.
steps to eliminate them. Yes,
Right,
keep the
right.
peace. But like you said before, that can sometimes mean things as simple as I'm not going to this event. I can't do this with you. And I think honestly, if you told somebody that multiple times and they can't understand multiple times, like maybe there's this one really cool party, for example, that your friends want you to go to and you don't want to go to it and they don't understand, like, why would you want to miss out? If that happens once or twice, it's understandable. It's just a disagreement. They think you should go, you
Right.
shouldn't. But sometimes, if your friends, family members, significant other are continuously bugging you about going to things when you say no, and it's like they don't understand why you'd want to all the time, that is toxic. They're not understanding your boundaries, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
those little things sometimes can reduce your stress if you cut those things out. So sometimes it can be simple as that, and we don't realize it sometimes when we're interacting with others and when we're in our relationships, but we got to keep that in mind.
Right. Especially if someone keeps nagging you after the fact, like after you state, "Oh, I'm good," or after you set up and you relate to them your boundaries, if they continue to nag you and continue to cause you stress, then that is a problem. Like, because I think that in the scenario that you provided, right, one or two times every once in a while that this happens, it's probably because your friends want you to, have some type of fun. They want you to be there and da 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 da. But after you relate, your boundary to them and they continue to either ignore it or disrespect it, I feel like it's not worth it at that point, I don't know.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
this life is way too short to be stressed all the time.
Right. You need to live a
It
little bit.
You need to live a little bit, It's And I think your point about the connection between stress and physical health is very, very important because I think that we forget that, psychological responses operate off of biological processes. So,
Hmm.
with that being done and said, there's definitely something going on if you are stressed. Um, and if it's all the time, that could cause so many problems for your health, so many problems. So it is very important to protect your peace. It is very important to put boundaries out there for yourself because that is health. Mental health is health, and it needs to be seen in that way. Even when it has to do something with, even when it has something to do with relationships.
I gotta put me first.
Yeah, I gotta put me
Put me
first.
first, Lucius.
Please.
Ignoring your needs.
Okay.
That's another obvious one. I feel like if you're always going along with whatever the other person in the relationship wants to do, even when you really don't want to, that's toxic. Right?
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's fair to say, like, not just once or twice, right? Because every relationship has give and take. You have to compromise. But if you're doing it all the time, yikes. That's all I'm
Yeah,
going to say. Yikes. Oh, this is a great scenario they have here.
yeah.
If they plan a vacation that's going to take you out of town on your mom's birthday, but when they ask you, like, what dates are convenient for you, what are going to work, you told them any dates are fine as long as you don't miss your mom's birthday on the 17th. Um, or actually, rather, you didn't tell them that. Um, you're thinking that, but you don't want to actually say it because you don't want it to. That's a
Oh,
terrible scenario,
oh,
frankly.
right. No, because I
Like
was like,
you,
babe.
that's your mother. You need to. I can hear my mom in the back like, "Don't forget your mother.
Bye.
She raised you. She cleaned your poops."
No, not never that
You know
noble.
that's what she was saying.
Oh, yeah, that is what she would say. You're right. Hey. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. That scenario is definitely a very interesting scenario, but your needs can really be anything. I think that's what I
Hmm.
want to emphasize here, you know. Back to what we were talking about earlier about parents, right? Because yes, a parent-child relationship is still a relationship. You know, your parents sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, you have water, food, a warm house, and clothing. What else do you need?"
Hmm.
Maybe emotional support as well. And if they
Right.
ignore that, then that's a problem. That is a problem.
I
Emotional
will
needs are
say,
still needs. They are still very much needs. But go ahead. Sorry.
yes, sorry. I will say this scenario is very cold. Like, if you are planning a vacation for you and the other person, and they tell you your mom's birthday is on the 17th, and why are you still putting it on the 17th? Like, come on.
Yeah,
That's
that
a
doesn't
little
make sense.
that's just terrible. Like, but
Wow.
oof. Yeah,
Mm.
you should not be in a relationship where you're always compromising for the person. They're not making any compromise. It's you're always going along. It's probably the biggest and probably number one sign of toxic relationship. Like, all the time, if you're compromising and they're not, yeah, that is a problem
Yikes. It's
because
it's a
it's
reciprocal
give
thing
and
again.
take. Yes,
Yeah.
reciprocation. Relationships need to be give and take. If we can take anything away from this episode, I think that's what it needs to be. There needs to be a flux, a flow to it.
Right.
All right.
Right.
Okay. The next one is lack of self care. This is
Mm-hmm.
pretty obvious. I mean, you were just talking about Eden, right? With keeping your peace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Self care is
Um,
part of that.
Self-care is so important. It's so important. And I don't think we should go I don't think I'm gonna go oh, come on, bro. I don't think we're going to go into detail on why it is important right now, maybe in a
Yeah.
different episode, but it is very important, you know?
Right.
And if someone is causing you this, see back to the last one, or maybe the one
Right.
before that. If someone is causing oh sorry, a plane just came by, but I don't think y'all can hear it. So
I can, but it's okay.
you can.
We'll let that go. We'll
Oh,
keep it
okay.
in.
Okay.
This is
So
live, friends.
if something is causing you that much stress that you can't even take care of yourself anymore, that is a problem. That is
Yeah.
a problem. You know, it says you might withdraw from hobbies you once loved, neglect your health, or
Mm.
sacrifice your free time. Like this is the thing. Do you see I feel like we're talking about this so like we're talking about it, but at the same time we're talking about it so mundane, not mundane. I don't know the word to describe it, but do you hear how crazy that sounds? Like
Yeah.
because of this is
I get what you're
y'all,
saying.
y'all
Like,
because
we're
of a
saying
toxic
it like
relationship.
it's not that big of a deal, but it really
Yeah,
is.
but it is, and we're probably just desensitized to it because it happens to a lot of people.
Mhm.
But if you are stopping some things that you love, right? If you are letting your health go down, if
All because of
you
that person.
right, if you have absolutely no time to yourself because of toxicity, that is a problem. Hello, that is a
Wake up.
problem.
Wake
Oh,
up.
okay. But that is definitely a problem, and sometimes you have to put you first. You have to put yourself first.
For real. Okay. Hoping for change. That's another common one too. Sometimes people stay in relationships. Sometimes they know it's toxic. Sometimes they just don't, they just know things aren't perfect. But
Mm-hmm.
they stay in a relationship because, oh, it's going to get better. We're going to work on it, figure it out. It was so good when we first started. And sometimes you'll even think like, if I change what I'm doing, maybe I'm not good enough, right? If I
Right.
change, maybe
Yes.
they'll
Yes. Yes.
change too. What is the problem with that line of thinking?
Look, I think hoping for change is okay. Again, within reason, right?
Yes.
It makes sense. But after a certain point, especially if it's one sided, because, okay, hoping for change and being willing to accept and perpetrate change are two different things. Because, hoping for change, I think, is almost always inherently one sided, whereas the latter is definitely not one sided and it's proactive.
Yes.
And I think with the line of thinking that you're bringing, hoping for change, I feel like it exists in a place that does not allow you to continue to move and continue to grow, because how do I say this? I feel like if you are hoping for change and you know that you're hoping for change, you know that something is wrong, right? And instead of leaving, you know, you continue to stay there for whatever reason, and sometimes those reasons are valid. I'm not judging those reasons. But at the same time, I keep saying this, but you have to put yourself first sometimes. If you're sitting there hoping for change outside of reason, like you're seeing that something is, you've been there for so long, and you're seeing that nothing is happening. There's no reason to stay there. There's no reason to stay there, and that's
Yeah.
that's the problem with that line of thinking, I think.
For real. The key thing is that usually when people are hoping for change, that's all, they're not communicating about it, that we need change.
Yeah.
Either person is not taking actions to change. It's just they're hoping, and that's where it
Right.
ends.
Right.
And that's not going to get you anywhere, I fear.
Oh, especially in a situation that is definitely two-sided, right? As in maybe toxicity is coming from two
On both
sides,
sides.
right? Okay, let's say you are being toxic to one person in some capacity, and that person is also being toxic to you, right? Sitting there and hoping for change, right? Like I said, and like you said, inherently one-sided, right? You're expecting the other person to go out of their way and do A, B, C, and D, and that just doesn't make sense. Like, it makes sense in that you want change. That makes sense, because who wants to be in a toxic situation? But like I said, it's one-sided, right? So if you're looking down at that person and you're not introspecting yourself, if you're not being like, okay, I know this is toxic, and I know I am perpetrating toxic things as well, then that's delusional. I'm sorry, babes. That's just delusional, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think, why are you even there at that point? You know what I mean? There should be some hope. Otherwise, the relationship is probably already doomed, right?
Right. Yeah.
But we shouldn't let it get to the point where you're just waiting and hoping and hoping and hoping, and you're like, oh, it's gonna get better, it's gonna get better, but nothing's getting better. And I think, especially when it's just the other person being toxic, and then you're like, if I be better, they'll change as well. That's, babes, by that point you've gone too far. You know what I mean? In terms of waiting for them to be better. If it's now, oh, I have to change for them to get better, it's already a wrap, I fear.
Right. Yeah. It's a wrap at that point. It very much is a wrap at that point.
Yeah, which, we I guess we say it so lightly now, but that's really hard. That's something that's really hard to go through, because
Mm-hmm.
we have to remember, these toxic relationships, sometimes it can be long-term relationships. You've been with this person for a long time, if it's romantic, or friendships, right? A friendship that you really cherish, and that's somebody that you really do care about. It's hard to remove yourself from that. And family, they are your family, they are your blood. And sometimes it's like, how do I remove myself from people that I am related to? You know what I mean? How do I just walk away from that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't want to say any of this like it's easy, any of what we've talked about, but we do need to talk about it. We do need to discuss it. Alrighty. We have one more on our list of the signs of a toxic relationship: walking on eggshells. And we've been talking about this throughout the episode, right?
Yeah.
If you're in a relationship where you
Oh,
really
sorry.
feel like, oh no, it's okay. if you really feel like bringing up a problem or issue that you have is going to really blow things up, not just like, oh, they're going to be annoyed, they're going to be mad, you'll have an argument. No, like really blow things up, right? It says extreme tension. That is probably, if it's not already toxic, it's on its way to toxic, right? Because it causes you to avoid conflict by holding your feelings in, and then you hold a grudge, and then you can't even really revel and live in the relationship, if that makes sense. You can't really enjoy it for what it is benefit because you're walking on eggshells, right?
Right, right. And I think that you have a very good point there. I think positive relationships positive relationships are supposed to be enjoyed, and I don't see how you can enjoy that if it feels like if you say one wrong thing or if you do one wrong thing, you know, everything goes
Yeah.
to hell. I feel like that's something else. That is something else that needs to be paid attention to. You know, if there is no space for you to make mistakes, like because we're not saying that a relationship is going to be perfect. We're not saying that we're perfect either, right? But if there's
Yes.
what I am saying here is if there's no space to make an honest mistake because you're not perfect, that is a toxic relationship. You know, sometimes even if you do the right thing, it will blow up, and that's toxic. That's just extremely toxic. I don't know what else to say
Yes.
besides like it's very toxic.
No, it's absolutely true. And on that note, is it possible to fix toxic relationships? And I think this will be our close-in thought because I'm pretty sure we're over the hour mark.
Yeah.
But that's the big question, right?
Okay. Look, this is the way I see it. Right. I think I think I'm pretty divided on this one. Okay. I can see yes. I can see no. Now I think I'm leaning towards no on this one because, like I said, protect your peace. It's completely okay to want to leave something after you've seen what it has done. You know what I mean? That's exactly
Yeah.
why a whole bunch of POC leave America because they see that America does not respect them. It's the same energy, you know. So for me, it's at that point, give up.
Well,
Sometimes. Wait, no, pause, pause.
I don't think it's
No,
a
wait,
yes
pause,
or
pause, pause.
no. I
Hold on,
don't think
hold
it's
on.
a yes or no type question though. Like I don't think we should answer it with no or yes. I think it's really just it depends.
Okay, yeah, but wait. See, I was getting to that. So I was gonna say I can also see yes because I think that there still is the capacity for really like truly good people to be toxic, but if they're really truly good people, I feel like they can get past that, if that makes sense. So like
Yeah.
you're saying, it depends. I'm just saying that it's kind of an opportunity cost or like risk benefit type of thing. Like I would say no if you want to ensure that you protect your peace because there's always the potential for it to be toxic, get better, and then become toxic again. you know
That's true.
um but also at the same time there is also the potential for it to be toxic and then get better. So you're right, it depends, yeah.
I think we have to differentiate between toxic relationship and toxic people because toxic relationship doesn't always equal toxic people, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a
Yeah,
toxic
yeah.
relationship with a toxic person, then I would say the answer is always going to be no because they're probably always going to come back to that. But I do think a lot of times many toxic relationships are two perfectly great people who are great in all their other relationships, but for whatever reason, they're clashing. Maybe they're not a good fit, or maybe they are a good fit, but they just have issues that need to be worked through together. So that's why I would say it, if we're talking about toxic relationship in general, it does depend because it doesn't necessarily mean that the people in there are doomed, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think, like you said, it does. The first thing is you both have to want to fix it. And you have to actually be willing to accept that this is broken. There are things that are wrong here and we need to fix it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Acceptance of responsibility is what it says here. You both probably have to acknowledge that it's toxic or at least that you're struggling in the relationship and want to invest in improving that relationship. If not, even if it's like one person is bringing most of the toxicity, I feel like still both of you have to agree on it, because if not, it's going to be one person's trying and one person's not, and then it's just more toxic, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that is important. And sometimes I think, like you said, opportunity cost. You need to be able to weigh that. And I think we see a lot of times people instead they try to stay to work on it when in some situations they should have actually just gone. Like you gotta weigh it. Not every single one is going to be worth saving, but at the same time, you shouldn't be like, I'm doomed. So I get it. It's definitely like you gotta weigh the cost here. They also talk about not blaming one another and instead understanding where each other are coming from. I think that's really important too. You know, if it's always, oh, you do this, it's your fault, you always do that, and I don't like it, if the conversations aren't getting past that, is it really beneficial? Is it really going to help in any real way? You have to be able to come together and understand, okay, maybe we're misunderstanding each other here and there. This is why I'm feeling this way. This is why you're feeling this way. How can we come together and work on that?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense too?
Yeah, a lot of sense. Blaming to understanding. It makes a lot of sense. I think,
Mm-hmm.
um, especially when you feel, because again, it can be a two-sided thing, especially when you feel like you've been wronged. Yeah, actually, pause that. Even if you feel like you haven't been wronged, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
you don't always want to take the blame. So it's really easy to not want to take responsibility. Very easy because it makes you feel bad, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's not conducive to growth, right? That's not conducive to improvement. So if you want to get out of that situation, either leave or, you know, take responsibility.
And put in the work too to
Put in
improve
the
it.
work.
And that includes, they mention in here, that includes being open to outside help at times, including therapy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Couples counseling for romantic relationships, general therapy can help with a lot of others. Sometimes you may just even need to talk to somebody else about it. Because I feel like sometimes when you're in a situation, actually, very often as a human, you only see it through a very narrow viewpoint, right? Through your glasses. Sometimes it's by talking to somebody else outside the relationship that you even realize it's toxic. And then you may realize from there that maybe this is not even worth salvaging. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the outside help is even just getting outside eyes to look in and be like, okay, hold on. You're so in it that you don't really see how bad it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That makes sense.
But but yeah, but we've mentioned it before on the podcast, and I'm sure we'll talk more about it, that we still live in a society where therapy is kind of looked down upon, and it really doesn't need to be, because it's really just, I feel like it's a lot of talking and getting those feelings out, a lot of communicating that needed to happen, you know? And of course, there are people who are professionals who are trained on how to do this, and they can really help you see the other person's viewpoint, which is really important, I think, in coming to any sort of resolution. Even if you don't agree with where the other person's coming from, you need to be able to see and understand like what they're thinking and where they were coming from. Because a lot of times it's not even malicious, or at least on purpose. It's not malicious, right?
Yeah, I think, well, sometimes it is malicious, but I get what you're saying. I think looking at a situation holistically, um, I think it leaves things in a good place. You know, being one-sided can be very toxic, of course, but looking at a situation holistically and at least trying to understand it, it allows room for improvement, though. It
Yeah.
really does, especially in a setting where everything is said. Everything is said that has to do with the situation, that has to do with the toxicity. Concerns can come up that maybe you would have never seen before, even if you don't agree. You at least be more conscious, sorry, about the actions that you take or the events that the relationship undergoes the next time they happen because someone has laid out their concerns.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I like that they mention here too, don't dwell on the past. Dwelling has never really helped anybody, right?
It really
Especially if you
hasn't. No.
decide you're going to stick with it and both of you are going to work together to resolve the issues. Look forward, right? Think
Right,
of what
right.
can be, not what was. I think that's
Yeah.
really important too.
I think kind of on like the other point of view though. Well, not the other point of view. Just kind of a different side to this whole discussion. Um, Again, you have no obligation to stay in toxicity if you feel like it's not going to work. So there's also that.
Yes.
And if something is just like straight up abusive, right? Because like we said, like toxicity does not have to be abusive, right? But being abusive is inherently toxic, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if it has gotten to a point of abuse, you should leave. You should, well, if the outlet is given to you, because sometimes the outlet is not given to you. A
For
lot of
real.
the time it isn't. So
Yeah.
it's not every situation that you have to look at things holistically, because some things are just objectively wrong at the same time, you know?
Yes. Well, I'm glad we had this conversation. It's a meaningful one, an important one. And I just want to say too, for anybody who's listening, if you feel like you may be going through a toxic relationship, or if you feel like you know somebody, a loved one, right, who's going through a toxic relationship, we wish you all the love and strength in the world. And we hope that you'll be able to get the help that you need or find a way to help that person that you know that may be struggling. Yeah, that brings us to the end of another episode. And we'll put the articles that we referenced in the description. Of course, our social media links and all of that are there as well. We thank
Mm-hmm.
you all so much for listening. And also, we encourage you to leave a rating or a voice message. You can leave a voice message on anchor.fm on our page there. And let us know your thoughts. Let us know where you're listening from and what you think and maybe what we can improve on. Um, but that's all we have for today. Signing off for now. Thank you all for listening. We love you all. And we hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.
Bye.